Boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka. Hey, what's up, my friend? So welcome back to today's video, right? Since it's actually the first week of the month of December, right? Already in the last month of the year, right? What I like to do is actually to walk you through what is going on in the global financial markets, right? So this is something I do once a month, right? I will walk you through the major currency pairs, the global equity markets, and as well as a few of the futures market, which I think is pretty interesting right now. So this is to give you a holistic view of what is going on in the financial markets right now, because every time you see the news, right, sometimes the dollar, sometimes the yen, sometimes the oil, sometimes etc. So it can get overwhelming. So what I've done is just once a month, right, give you a broad overview, right, of what is really happening, right, based on the price action of the markets, right? There is no fundamentals involved. Everything is just based on price, because my belief is that price leads news, right? So this is what is going to happen in today's video, right? So all this and more, right? I'll see you there. Alrighty. So first up, let's have a look at the major currency pairs, shall we? So the first one we'll have a look at is the euro dollar. Okay, so this is the euro dollar. Let's look at the weekly time frame. So you can see over here, the euro dollar is primarily still in a longer term downtrend, right? You can see that this sell off over here, right? And then followed by this range market over here. So this is the weekly time frame. So you're basically looking at the structure of the markets over the last few years. So what essentially happened in 2015 and 2016 is the market is in this range over here. And this should not come as a surprise, because what usually happen is that a strong period of trending market would usually lead to a period of range market. And then from a period of range market, it typically leads to a period of trending market. So this is how the market cycle, right? So if you ask me right now, euro dollar is pretty much in a range. Okay, so my expectations is for it to trend when it breaks out the range, right? I have no idea, whether it's going to break higher or it's going to break lower. But judging from the looks of things, all right, by following the trend, my guess is that we could possibly see a continued move lower, right? I could be wrong, right? This is just my guess. Okay, so looking at this, right, once we have established the big picture on euro dollar, we go down to the daily time frame, right, our entry time frame, and then we can start to think, right, how are we going to trade this idea, this concept in our head. So looking at which, right, my plan is for euro dollar to possibly retest back towards this highs over here, right, previous support, right, and if this false break of support, then turn resistance over here. So this would be a key level to pay attention to on euro dollar, right? 1095 even. Okay, so if it does not retrace deep enough, right, another possibility that I see is that this market could possibly consolidate over here before having a breakdown lower. Okay, so I would also be interested to short this breakdown, right? Because if you see the big picture, right, euro dollar is at this weekly time frame, right? There would be traders looking to go long because this is an area of support. And if you go long at support, where would you put your stop loss, right? Chances are it's below this low, right? So I expect or anticipate a cluster of stop loss below, right? And if price does build up the way I like it, right, I would be inclined to short the breakdown in anticipation that the market takes out the stops and fuel further price decline. So this is my take on the euro dollar. On the pound dollar, right, look at the big picture, the weekly, it's in a downtrend, right? You have a series of lower highs and lower lows. Very straightforward. And this is partly fueled by the Brexit event, which you see this long spike candle over here, and then the market just continue trading lower. So the question now is, since the trend is down, right, where do you want to trade from? Where do you want to do business, right? And using simple technical analysis, you can identify that this is a previous support, which could possibly act as resistance in the coming few days, right? So this is a level to pay attention to, right? If you want to short the pound dollar, right, this is a level that you want to wait for your entry trigger, before going short. Okay, Aussie dollar, right, things are slightly different in this commodity currency, and this time around, if you look at the weekly, Aussie dollar is it's still, I would say, in a longer term downtrend, but in recent move, right, in recent times, right, the market seems to be, holding up as a range over here, right? So long term, really long term, over looking at years, right, the trend is down. But what about now, trading in the now, right? Then you would say that, the trend is basically, right, in this range over here. So if you look at the daily time frame, you can see that, I've plotted out the levels that I'm looking at, and these are the key levels, that you may want to pay attention to. So if you want to, trade Aussie dollar, it really, there's a few ways you can go about it, right? If you're bearish, then needless to say, right, this over here is possible levels. This over here are possible levels for you to go short. And if you're bullish, what you can do is you wait for retracement back towards this area of support to go long, or if it does breaks out, retest, right? This is another possible area to go long. So you can see that, once you have your levels, plotted on your chart, right, what is remain, right, is just to wait for price to come to those levels before you take on a trade. Right, of course, you wait for your entry trigger before you take on a trade. So this basically, sums up, what trading is all about, right? Waiting for price to come to an area of value and then trading from it, right? From one area of value to the next area of value. Okay, so New Zealand dollar, weekly time frame, right? I would say this is one of the stronger major currency pairs. If you ask me, right, this was the downtrend that followed most of the major currency you saw earlier, pound dollar, euro dollar, etc. And then it broke this downward trend line, and now we have a series of higher highs, higher lows. Okay, so bullish on this New Zealand dollar, and recently we had this trading setup when price came into this area of support, right? We had this false break where price broke below this low and then closed higher. Okay, so this was a entry trigger. I call this the false break. Some trader call this the bullish engulfing. Some call it the what else they call it? Failure pattern, right? There's really a lot of names to go with this type of patterns. But I would say what's important is to understand the logic behind why you are trading this type of patterns, right? The reason why you are trading this false break is because traders who went short on this breakdown, okay, chances are they are in the red right now, because if you go short, your stop loss, my guess, would be somewhere here, or maybe if you are really, conservative, all the way up to these highs. So as the market trades against you, we can see that it's going to trigger all this stop loss by traders who actually shorted this breakdown over here. Okay, so you can see that New Zealand dollar, I'm bullish, alright. So I'm really long. So I would say I'm trying to ride the trend, right, by just trailing using the 20 period moving average. Just pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, if you've been watching my videos over the last few months, you probably know, what I'm doing. So dollar Canadian, right, weekly time frame. Okay, another one, right, another strong major currency pairs. All right, but this time around is dollar against the Canadian. Means actually bullish on the dollar against the Canadian. You see that we are essentially still in a long-term uptrend. Higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Then we have this very strong pullback over here, right? This type of pullback, right, when you see such a move over here where the trend had suddenly encountered a very strong pullback, right? This usually is a warning, a sign to traders who are long, because looking back historically, right, the lows have not been violated at all. But this was the first one that actually took out this low. So at the back of your head, when you see such price action, right, you don't want to say that the trend is over, right? Because that is too quick to base an assumption. But rather you want to tell yourself that the trend is getting weak. Okay, right? Does not mean that you are looking to go against the long-term trend, but you want to tell yourself that the trend is getting weak and possibly we could see a reversal to the downside. So you want to have a few scenarios in your head. You don't want to just fix with one particular scenario and say the trend is over. No, you just want to have multiple scenario in your head, right? Saying that the trend is getting weak, possible reversal back towards the downside. We'll wait and see. That should be your thought process, right? And this is basically how I think. So basically what happened after which is that we went into a period of this ascending triangle, right? Then price broke out. So right now, if you ask me, right, the bulls are still in control, having breakout of this key resistance over here, and I'm looking to long the dollar Canadian. You look at the daily chart, where is price? Right? Previous resistance, turn support, turn into a possible area of support. This one over here. So this is a level that I'm paying attention to. If I do get an entry trigger, right, you can be sure I'll be looking to long the dollar Canadian. Right, so often traders ask me, Reina, what is an entry trigger, right? A very simple one could be just, a false break like what you've seen in the New Zealand dollar. Price traded lower and then pump, it closed higher, right? This is a typical false break, right? Traders who went short below this low are now trapped. So this is a very simple, very useful entry trigger to use, right? So you want to pay attention to it, okay? And dollar yen, right? Weekly time frame, you can see that Okay, we have this downtrend recently. Right, if you draw a trend line, it is, it's broken already, and then we have this very strong rally, right? Ever since the president election, the event was over, you can see this strong, huge rally over here. So at the looks of things, right, I'm not interested to go short, right? I would pretty much prefer to go long, right? If you want to go long, where is an area you want to do business, right? Area of support, right? So this is possible one. This is another one. Okay, so a daily time frame can be difficult to trade over here because you see this strong parabolic move towards the upside. So as I've mentioned, right, over the last couple of videos, the last couple of weeks, you may have to enter on the lower time frame, like the 1 hour time frame, to find your entry. Okay, so these are the outlook of the global major currency pairs, right? Let's look at the equity markets, shall we? Global equity markets. So looking at this, right, S&P weekly time frame, bullish, right? One word, bullish, right? There's nothing bearish on this, right? I'm still, amused, right, when I see traders talking about bubbles, talking about overbought conditions. I mean, what the? You look at the chart, if price has been consistently making higher highs, higher lows, right? You don't really want to care what the report is saying, right? If it's trading higher, look to get long, right? If you are just, constantly attempting to go short, it is going to be very painful. Okay, so I hope this sinks in, right? If the market is trading higher, it breaks out new highs, stay long. Simple as it is, right? You don't really want to pay attention to what the fundamental news is saying, because as I said before, right? The news, right, they have usually, let's not go there, but rather, price comes first, right? Then after which, right, the news would typically come in to validate the price action, right? But there are always these contrarians out there who says that, it's overbought, oversold, and usually what happens is that, chances are they're not trading, because if they are trading, their account is probably in the red already if you're going against, the dominant trend, right? And it's not a pretty sight, right? So S&P bullish, right? If you want to go long, you want to ask yourself, where is an area you want to do business? So this can be a little bit tricky because on the S&P you have this possible highs over here. You have another one over here. All right, so it really, depends how you draw out your levels, right? So I would say these are the two nearest levels to pay attention to. Right, I think Nasdaq is a little bit more straightforward because on a weekly time frame, not as bullish as the S&P, right? Because S&P, you saw that it broke out of this high over here, but Nasdaq still contained within this range, right? So if again, right, the trend is still up, right, and this is an area that you potentially want to trade from. Okay, you have a look at the Dow Jones, right? Weekly bullish, right? So daily you want to look for an area to trade from. This is a level to pay attention to, right? The Russell 2000, same story. Okay, so let's have a look at how about the European markets, right? They are not as bullish as the US side, but pretty much in the range, if you ask me, right? Contained between these highs and these lows on a daily time frame, right? So if you're gonna buy high, sell low, this is a perfect example, right? Euro stocks, same thing over here, right? And looking back at Asia, right, the Asian markets, if you ask me, I think the Nikkei 225 is one of the stronger Asian equity market, right? If you look at it, right, on the daily, it has actually broke above this resistance, right? And this is a potential level, that you could look to get long if it does retest it, right? If you look at the Hang Seng, nothing pretty, right? If you ask me, this is the type of trade I don't like to trade because price is in the middle of nowhere. And if you are trading when price is in the middle of nowhere, where are you going to put a logical stop loss? Right, based on your equity that's left in your account, that does not make sense because the market does not care how much money you left in your account, right? So you're going to you want to put your stop loss based on structure of the markets. And if you ask me, the nearest structure is this lows and this lows over here. And if you put your stop loss all the way, at this lows, right, here to here is your stop loss, right? It does not really, it's not even enticing from a risk to reward perspective, right? And likewise, if you go short, your stop loss is above this high. Again, nothing enticing. So I would rather prefer for price to come into an area of value, right? Area of support, resistance. Those are usually where you want to trade from, where you want to do business. Okay, so somewhere closer to home, Singapore stock markets, right? Price is approaching this area of resistance, right? Could be a shorting opportunity here to go short. Want to pay attention to this. Okay, so that's a little bit for you for the global equity markets, what is going on. And let's look at a few futures market before we, call off today's video. Right, I think what I want to highlight to you is soybean, right? So soybean, you can see that it is pretty much a dull market, right, this period of time, right? And over here, we have this breakout where a few of us right? I think a few of you who actually watched this video caught, I think, a 13R move from one of you. I can't remember what's your name, but I believe a 13R move was actually, achieved in this move over here. So right now, soybean seems to be in this consolidation over here once again. And if you look at this, right, on the daily time frame, you see that it's actually a inverse head and shoulders, right? Inverse head and shoulders. Right, this is the left head. Sorry, this is the left shoulder, this is the head, this is the right shoulder, right? Left head, what am I talking about? Right, so if you ask me, my take on this is that I'm looking to go long, right? So I'm looking to see some build up over here where price consolidate, and then if you can just break out above this high, I want to go long on soybean. Okay, so this is something that I'm looking at. And what else? I think oil is something that's worth watching as well. You can see that we have this, again, fundamental is talking, right? I don't know what's really going on the fundamental side of things, but I believe there's some news being shared, and you can see this strong rally over here. But that aside, right, if by the time you want to trade based on fundamental, chances are you're already entering somewhere here. Let's not kid yourself, right? If you look through the news, right, the bullish fundamental news on oil, right, is on this candle over here. So let's say, as early as you can get, probably maybe you enter very early based on fundamental. The earliest you can get, let's say, somewhere here. Let's be, a little bit more optimistic for you. Right, but what about traders who trade based on price itself, right? Based on looking at charts, just trading the price action of it. If you ask me, you could get as early as over here. Look at this, right? You have a false break towards the downside, right? And if you set your stop loss 1 ATR below this low, you would still be in this trade. And you would have got in so much earlier compared to a fundamental, someone who trades just based on fundamentals, entering on news, and say, let's assume that you can get here. I'm being really optimistic over here, right? Let's say assume you get somewhere, enter over here because you heard of the report, right? Your stop loss your logical stop loss would have, be below at least this low or even here. So that's what I mean by, price comes first, right? And usually, the news would follow that justify the price action, right? So for me personally, I'm a price action trader, right? I'm a trend trader, and I'd like to trade the price action, right? I don't really pay much attention to news because most of the time when the news is out, right, the move has already occurred, right? If you want to enter, it's possibly already too late. Okay, so nothing against traders who trade based on fundamentals, but this is just my take on it, right? There are traders who trade fundamental and technical combined together. That is something that, again, I don't do it, but I can't say it's wrong because if it's working for them, right? Who am I to say, hey, you're wrong, right? I can't say that, right? So again, ultimately, I'm just sharing with you my own views, my own thoughts. If it makes sense to you, right, great. If it doesn't, then it's just my own 2 cents, and you can just, toss it into the bin, whatever, okay? So that's all I have for you in today's, this week's video, right? I hope it helps, right? A broad perspective of what's going on in the global markets. So just a recap, right? Basically, the FX, right? The US dollar are pretty much the euro dollar and the pound dollar pretty weak, right? We saw earlier they are in a downtrend. The stronger one is actually the New Zealand dollar in terms of bullish, right? And the dollar Canadian. These two are the stronger ones to be looking to long. This one looking to short. And we talk about the indices, right? Let's talk about the indices, right? Indices, you saw that. I'm not sure if I spelled correctly. Indices, yeah, right. The S&P, basically the US one, are the stronger indices, right? So if you want to long, say for example, get exposure to the global stock markets, the US are the ones that you want to be paying attention to, right? Asia is the weaker one, if you ask me, right? Not looking as strong compared to the US, right? And the European, right? They are pretty much in a range as we've seen earlier. Okay, and last but not least, we also talk about a bit of futures market. I said that soybean was a market that I'm looking to go long, right? Soybean, if I do get the breakout, right, of the highs, right? And we talk a little bit about oil, about why you want to pay attention to price instead of focusing solely on just the news, right? Because it's usually too late and the move would have occurred. Okay, so yep, that's all I have for you in today's video. I hope you find it useful. If you enjoyed it, right, feel free to hit the subscribe button below, all right, and like this video. So this is my a form of feedback for me to know that this is something that you're enjoying. Okay, so with that, I wish you all good luck and good trading. Talk to you soon.